Hello there, welcome Genesis Models. My name is Bobby Waldron and this is the next step-by-step video build here at Genesis Models, which we are going to be building the Hellcat Mk.I/2, and that is in 140 upscale by Eduard. Now with this video build, it's going to be a relatively quick one, being a World War II 140 upscale, but we do have resin inside here, we do have Photoetch. I do want to tackle some scratch building with this, as well as some new techniques and whatnot, so we'll be diving into all that throughout this step by step. If you want to watch this step by step, this episode 1 is free for all of you to watch, but if you want to watch any more, you need to go to the Genesis Models website, where not only can you see this being released on a weekly basis until it's finished, but there is hundreds and hundreds of hours of loads more step by steps, rapid video builds, inbox reviews, product reviews, tutorials, as well as you've got the massive forum with group builds and SIGs and everything going on there. So go check out Genesis Models to watch the rest of this step by step. Now to kickstart with this step by step, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a quick inbox review of this. I'm not going to do a full usual inbox review that I normally do, because we're going to really sort of get to know this kit throughout this step by step. So without further ado, let's jump in with a quick inbox review. So here is the glorious Hellcat by Eduard. As you can see, this is a Royal Navy version as well, so it's a little bit different to the usual US Navy version of the Hellcat. This actual aircraft took over from the Wildcat and turned the war against the Zero in the Pacific. But taking a look at the kit inside, well, let's just have a quick look at some surface detail, just to sort of, give an idea of what kind of detail we've got here. Hopefully, as you can see, we've got lovely recessed panel line detail, which is very sort of consistent with recess rivets going on in there as well. Wheel wells, I mean, looking a little bit plain, but there is a little bit of detail in there. We have another sprue here where we've got all our flaps, slats, ailerons, propellers, all those sort of stuff. We do have raised bits of detail where it's due as well. The fuselage section, just like the wing section, we've got again that lovely recess and recess panel lines and recess rivet detail going on there as well. Hopefully, as you can just see there, looking rather good. The inside's a little bit plain, but maybe we could liven that up a little bit. With this kit as well, we've got all these tiny little bits of detail. We've got the ability to jazz up a really sort of cool engine here, all sorts of wheels. We've got instrument display panels which are plain to take photo etch. We've also got the option to not use the photo etch and have the ones that have got the detail on there. So it looks like a rather well detailed kit. Hardly seeing any flash with this kit either. Ejector pin marks, and you can't really see them in the wrong places. Got some rockets here as well. Quite simple. We have, as an added extra for this, because it's like a dual combo one, we've got a whole bunch of resin with resin wheels just in this bag. They do look rather cool. We'll have a closer look at them. We have some photo etch in here, which is all sorts of bits of photo etch here for engine detail and all that kind of stuff. On the other side, we have like a load of cockpit detail with photo etch as well, which is in colour. Fantastic decals, which I do believe are by Cartograph, and hopefully, as you can see there, they are looking absolutely stunning. They're in registry, the colour's good. We've got decals for all the cockpit stuff as well going on in there, so you've got such a good option with this kit to do all sorts of. You can have it resin, you can have it photo etch, painted, use decals for all your cockpit detail, which is rather cool. Then we've got some canopy masks as well, which we'll be probably using them later on. With this kit as well, where's it gone? You do get 2 kits in it. Now for this step by step, I'm only going to be building one. I've got the other kit down there, which I'll probably use in the classes here at Genesis Models as like an example piece for people to play around with. But apart from that, nice quick inbox review. Let's jump straight in and get some of this build going. Right then, where I want to start off with is a bit of prep work. Right, we've got this resin here. Now, back in the past, we used to have to go off and get all our sprues, wash all our sprues with washing up liquid and stuff, because they'd have a release agent on it, which is basically a bit like oil, and when it comes around to do any spraying, it's like oil to water. It messes up your paintwork and everything. However, resin hasn't got to the stage where you don't have to worry about that. Resin is definitely known for having that release agent on there. So let's just have a little quick look at these resin pieces, because they are rather well detailed. We've got lovely tread work going on there and hubcaps and everything going on. We've got enough for both of the models, and hopefully, as you can see that, looking rather stunning. Resin is rather good for the detail. So just a quick tip, just to get us going. What I've got here, just a little pot, and it's got warm water in there, not really hot. I mean, literally just very sort of lukewarm. You don't want it to be hot, because with resin will start to bend and warp very quickly, very easily, if the water is too hot. So we just want to throw these in there. I have poured in just a couple of drops of washing up liquid as well, which will combat any sort of oil mold release agent that's still on these resin pieces. Now you can leave them to soak in there for a couple of hours, and then basically go into the kitchen and rinse them off under a cold tap, and they're all good to go. You could help them along with just a simple old toothbrush. Give them a scrub as well, just to sort of get into all the nooks and crannies and make sure they have no more mold release agent on them. And again, go into the kitchen, run them under a cold tap just to wash them off, leave them to dry, and they're good to go. So the next thing we want to do is start to cut our pieces off of our sprue as well. Now, when cutting pieces off the sprue, what you want to sort of remember is you don't want to be cutting right up to our piece. Because what we have here is we have our piece, right, our fuselage section, and then we have a little bit of sprue just here. We don't want to be cutting this so that we're cutting right up to the piece, because we risk the potential possibility of actually damaging our fuselage here. We want to just cut it so that it's a little bit away. Right, places like this, these areas aren't going to matter, they're going to be covered up, but still, you know, just give them a little snip about a mil and a half away. Same with this back bit here, not right up to it, just bring it back a little bit. Right, and what you're doing is you're leaving that little bit of sprue just on the end there. That way we haven't damaged our piece, and we haven't got to do any filling or sanding or scribing or anything like that. Then I've got a bunch of skinny sticks here. These skinny sticks are rather cool. They're by Flurry Models. You can go to pretty much any online shop to buy these, and these skinny sticks are really cool, because you can get into all these hard to reach places, and they do all sorts of different sizes, and flat sanding sticks, sponging sanding sticks for, you know, different curvatures and stuff, as well as there's different grits and whatnot. For these little tabs here, what we can do, we can start off with, say, a medium grit, and we can actually just sand these, you know, pretty much right down to our actual piece, right? And then as we get down to, you know, almost there to the piece, right, we want to start using finer sanding sticks, right, so that we're just sanding away at the tab and not our piece itself. For areas like this here at the front here, we've got a tab there and it's got a curve to it. In this case, I mean, we could start off with, say, a medium grit, just to get rid of most of the tab, right? But then, you know, once we've got most of it gone, you do want to you do want to sort of move to a sponge sanding stick. So with a sponge sanding stick, what's going to happen here is it's going to sand our piece here to the curvature of the model. Because we've got a curve, hopefully, as you can see, if we sort of press down, it's going to go with that curvature, and that's what you want. So I'm using sort of like a fine sanding grit for this tab just here, and it's got a sponge to go with the curvature. Alright, so if I just keep sanding at this until, you know, we're pretty much there, we can then bring in another sponge, but an even finer sort of sanding grit. And as you can see, it's a bigger sponge, it's going to go with that curvature a lot better. And we just keep on sanding until our little tab here is all gone, and hopefully you can see already I've got a little bit more sanding to do, but we've got no damage going on to the model at all, and we haven't got to worry about filling sanding. Probably have to do maybe a little bit of scribing, maybe just there where we've done a bit of sanding, but it keeps everything all good, because the last thing you want is to have cut and damage the model or something like that, and you end up with like little gaping holes here, there and everywhere, and it doesn't look as professional. Another thing is, on the opposite side of sprues, you'll find things like these. They're called ejector pin marks. These are how they sort of eject them out of the molds, and basically it can leave these nasty sort of marks. Sometimes they can be sunk in, sometimes they could be raised. These two here are raised. You want to get rid of these because they can be a bit unsightly, and what we simply do, we've got our skinny sticks here which are really cool, nice and thin, which allows us to sort of be able to get into hard to reach places, and it is just a case of sanding away. I'm using a coarse sanding stick here just to get rid of this one here, and all you want to do is really sort of sand that right down until that eject pin mark has gone. Right, so now that's gone, the problem is what we've got is because we've used a coarse sanding stick, we've got all these tiny little sanding scratches all on here, which again looks a little bit unsightly. So what we can do is, you don't just want to sort of start with a coarse and then jump straight into a really sort of fine sanding stick. You want to work your way through the different grits, starting from coarse, medium, fine, to really fine, to even a polishing sanding stick. So I've just turned this over to a medium grit now, because with these skinny sticks, on one side it's normally coarse, and then another side it's like a medium, and then with this one here, the green one, it's sort of like a fine to a finer one, you know, so you've only got to turn it upside down. Now another little tip when it comes to sanding, right, is we've got all this sanding dust here, which you know, you want to make sure, you know, you've potentially got a open windows face mask on and stuff, because you know this sanding dust is harmful to your health. However, to help along with, you know, keeping the sanding dust down, I've just got a pot of water just here, and you can dip your sanding stick into the water, and then by doing that, what happens is, if I get some water on it, what happens is the water will catch the sanding dust. So instead of having that sanding dust go up in the air, it gets caught by the water and makes a bit of a mess, but it catches all that sanding dust. And again, you know, as I say, you want to work through all the different sanding grits, right, to get this all nicely smoothed off. Right, so now I'm going to move down to a finer sanding stick, and by hearing that squeaking, it does normally represent that, you know, you're getting really sort of smooth. Right, and then finally I'm going to come back to this on, we've got a sort of like a fine sanding stick, this spongy one, but on the opposite side there's a really cool sort of polishing, a polishing sanding stick, which, as you can hear, sounds rather squeaky because we're getting it all polished up, and hopefully as you can see there, I mean, it's as if there wasn't even an ejector pin mark there at all, and you've smoothed the plastic down to the rest of the plastic, so we're all good to go there. It's just the task of going off and getting rid of all those ejector pin marks, which luckily on this kit there isn't that many, so I'll just get rid of 1 or 2 more on here. Next up is some basic gluing. Now if you just come back to the hobby, you'd probably use that kind of Humbrol glue or Revell glue or something, which is quite nasty and sticky, and you end up with cobweb fingers all over the place. Things have moved along since then. What we use now is Tamiya extra thin cement. Now this stuff is very potent, you know, so maybe you might want to put a face mask on if you want to, but it comes in with a nice little brush that comes on the end of it as well. Now this stuff is extremely thin, it's thinner than water, and the whole idea is it has a very good capillary action to it, so as to suck in and get in between the joints. So instead of actually coming along as we would say in the past and sort of dab the glue on, and then we place our piece together and then it glues together like so. What we do now, we actually put the 2 pieces together dry, and then we actually come along with the Tamiya extra thin cement and we just touch the join line, and what happens is I've just touched that in one place, but that has now sucked in and gone in and added flow and capillary action to really sort of get pretty much absolutely everywhere where that join line is. We could probably press down a little bit if we want to, just to make sure that's in place. And what this glue does, it doesn't like bond the 2 pieces of plastic together. It actually melts the 2 pieces of plastic and brings those 2 pieces of plastic together, welding them together to make a really solid join line. Now there is a tutorial on Tamiya extra thin cement and some other different types of cements out there on the Genesis Models website under the tutorial section. If you want to go have a much more sort of in-depth product review of using these glues, go check that out. But for future reference with this step by step, you know, this is how we're going to be gluing pretty much everything together, apart from Photoetch, which I'll probably be showing you in a bit. One other thing with probably a lot of the pieces is these join lines. These are just like little tiny bits of flash, little lines that you can just sort of see. Hopefully you can just see there on all sorts of pieces, all the pieces, because that's basically 2 molds coming together, and that bit where they come together leaves a slight little mark, a little join line. Now when it comes to removing these, I mean, you can use a sanding stick, but sometimes like this instrument display panel here, we can't really get a sand stick to sort of get in there. So I like to use a blade, and all you got to do is sort of just run the blade along like so, and you're just literally just shaving off that little bit of raised join line, that little tiny bit of flash or whatever you want to call it. And hopefully, as you can see there, using the blade technique, we get that looking all nice and smooth, as if it wasn't joined together with 2 halves. And you sort of want to go around, as you can see there's some more just there. I don't know if you can see that on camera. There you go. With these ones on the edges, I mean, you can easily come around with a fine sponge sanding stick and just lightly sand these out. I mean, it really does only need a light sanding just to get rid of them, because it is, as I say, just a tiny bit of flash coming off the piece there. So what we need to do now is prepare for some Photoetch, because we've got quite a lot of nice Photoetch to go in this cockpit to really sort of jazz it up. Now what you want to be doing, there are a couple of pieces, and it does show you in the instructions very clearly exactly what detail work that needs to be removed. If we just show you in the instructions here, we have piece, what is it? We've got piece G55 here, which we've got just here, and in red it clearly shows all the bits of detail that needs to be removed so as we can put our photo etch on there. So that's quite helpful. So just to remove it is very simple task really. I start off with taking all the big bits, right, and taking a blade, and I just simply just cut these off. It's very easy with a nice brand new blade to just cut off any sort of really sort of raised bits, just to sort of speed up the whole sanding process. Right, and then after that's done, we can come in with a coarse sanding stick, right, and give that a good sanding. Now we haven't got to worry about working our way through all the different grits, right, to then smooth this off to a perfectly smooth finish, because if we look at the instructions we'll see that we're removing this detail because a piece of photo etch is going to go on here, so we don't have to worry about going off and, as I say, working our way through the grits and getting it all nice and smooth. We can literally just sort of come in with a coarse sanding stick and sort of finish it off with a medium grit sanding stick. We don't need to get it as perfect as that really, so because we know we're going to cover it up later. I'll sand the rest of that, the top bit, off camera later. Now we've got two types of photo etch that we get with this kit. We have unpainted, plain simple photo etch, and then we have photo etch that has been pre-painted or pre-printed, so to speak. So we've got to put them on in different stages. So there is a lot of photo etch in this. Pretty much the first page you come to is just packed full of loads and loads of photo etch. So you really sort of want to study the instructions and find out what coloured photo etch is going down and what non-coloured photo etch is going down, because you want to be putting the non-printed on photo etch, this one here, the brass one, you want to start cutting them out and gluing them down now, and then you want to spray your cockpit, and then once it's all sprayed you come in and then you glue on all your different printed bits of photo etch. So there is an order to it, so you've got to go through and find out, you know, which ones need to go down, which there isn't that many unprinted ones that need to go down. Now to get our bits of photo etch off of the fret, right, there is a good way of doing it and a bad way of doing it. You could come around and just start to sort of cut it off, or come in with pliers and cut it off, but really photo etch when cutting it off can bend very easily, very quickly, break very easily. You really do want to, you know, do it the proper way. So from RB Productions you can go out and buy this little sort of very simple bit of kit. It's basically a piece of plastic acrylic, nice and flat, very hard. You get another piece of plastic acrylic that's got a little bit of a handle on, and the whole idea is you sandwich your piece of photo etch. So we need piece 77 here. Let's see how close we can get you in. Right, we need piece 77 here. Right, and the whole idea is we use these two pieces of acrylic to sandwich it in, and what we're basically doing is we're sandwiching it so that it's not going to bend or anything like that. Then you want to come along with a blade, but you want to come along with the number 9 blade. This is a nice flat blade, which is just what you want for cutting off photo etch. Right, so taking our first little tab just here, right, I'm going to butt up between the piece and the tab, then I'm going to sandwich our two pieces of acrylic plastic, right, and then what we're going to do, we're going to rock with our blade to cut that piece of fret, right, and then we're going to do the same, because there is another two pieces of fret, and I'm just trying to get you on camera at the same time. Again, butt it up as close as you can, butt up with the two pieces of acrylic plastic, and then rock. Right, it's very important that you rock to cut, because if we go off and saw, right, show it one last time, butt it up, give it a rock. If we saw, we're potentially going to sort of like move that bit of Photoetch, and then it's going to sort of get all mangled up and everything. And there we go, we've cut that piece of Photoetch off there, you know, fairly easy. Now really, actually, if you do it right, that should be pretty much it, right? But just in case, right, let's just say you didn't cut it, butt it up close enough, which actually this one is looking rather good. What you want to do is sort of where you've got that tab, and you might have a little bit of leftover tab on the piece itself, you just butt it. Again, we're butting it up, we're sandwiching that Photoetch. That's sort of like the key to keeping your Photoetch all nice and straight, is always be sandwiching it. And then getting a metal foil, right, you just simply give it a light bit of a sanding. Right, a good quality foil is also good for doing it with Photoetch, but as I say, you know, if you do it right, you can get away with actually not doing any filing, because, you know, if you do it right, it will get done right. But, you know, if you don't, you can come along with your file and some tweezers. So now that that's been cut off, there's one or two other pieces that need cutting off. I'll glue them on, and we're just going to jump into the spraying.